you to the entire ThoughtWorks team for giving me the opportunity to share my insights about designing solutions for rural India. I hope I'm audible to everyone, although I can't guarantee I'll be visible to everyone. Challenges of short people. So if you're wondering where the voice is coming from, I'm here. So I'll start off with a slightly, just an introduction. I think Disha covered most of it. So I have 16 years of experience working in the software. I started out as a developer, business analyst. I played multiple roles. I've been a project manager, product strategist. I used to run my art school for a bit, and I've conducted art workshops for children and adults. I'm also an entrepreneur. Until very recently, I was running my startup in the event mobile app space. I joined Rangde recently, and my journey started about 4 months back. Although I've been following Rangde for a long time before I joined them full-time. And I think I've been very enamored by the kind of social impact they've created on the ground. So, for those of you who are not familiar with Rangde, Rangde is India's pioneering peer-to-peer lending platforms. What we do is we crowdsource funds from social investors across the globe, and we channel those funds as low-cost collateral-free microcredit to rural borrowers from the underserved communities. So Rangde actually has a fanatic passion to fight poverty in India. And the way we do it is we partner with grassroots level organizations, community level organizations across rural India who help us identify and onboard borrowers who are in need for credit. So these could be small entrepreneurs, these could be farmers, weavers, artisans, and so on. And we offer them low-cost microcredit. And this has created a significant social impact in the lives of many such people. We have support from social investors, over 10,000 of them globally. And our journey has been in this model for the last 8 years. However, Rangde is looking to go to a new model where we do not want to be constrained by the presence or the absence of partner organizations, and we want to reach out to the borrowers directly. Today, what stops us from reaching out to the borrowers is a lack of individual bank accounts, for instance. That is one of the initial problems. And also the fact that there isn't really a technology ecosystem that was available so far. However, as we look to scale up, the ecosystem has actually becoming more congenial with biometric authentication, India Stack, payment banks, Jan Dhan accounts, and even the UPI and other innovative payment methods. All of this opening up has given us a significant thrust where we're confident that our model to reach individual borrowers and make an impact in their life is actually going to be possible. So, some of the things, clearly there are multiple challenges when we look at scaling a solution of this sort across India, right? Purely the diversity of it. And also, I think a lot has been said and written about the importance of user research or understanding user personas, understanding the context of the people whose lives we're trying to change, right? And also purely the technology challenges that we might face in the last mile, availability of internet, electricity, right? So those are all, I think there's enough said and written, and these are naturally, when you come up with a solution of this nature, is going to be challenges that any team has to solve. What I'm going to talk about though is stepping a little back from this rhetoric, and I also want to talk about some of the unconscious biases that we carry in our minds as technologists, and how those biases actually end up influencing the solutions that we put out there. So, for instance, I think I'm making a broad sweeping generalization here, but I think many of us in this group here are lead privileged lives, right? We live in our little bubbles, in our colonies where most of our core needs are taken care of, right? And I'm not saying that we don't have our share of problems, right? We do have our problems. We have problems of traffic jam, work-life balance, finding innovative ways to stash our black money. A lot of problems we have. However, I think there are other challenges. There is, when we say we want to make a significant impact in the lives of someone who belongs to a lower economic strata, in our little bubbles, the only channels of interaction with people of a lower economic strata is that of a service provider relationship, right? So our interactions are with our domestic help, our security staff, the cooks, the drivers, the newspaper vendors and so on. We tend to interact and we're familiar with people like ourselves. I think that's a very natural human tendency. And however noble our intentions are in terms of creating a social impact in the lives of the underserved, what happens is that there is this core bias and mind block that we carry in our mind that tends to influence how we think of solutions. For instance, the way I can give you an example of what Ram, our founder at Rande, says. For the urban elite, we think of so many models of cutting-edge RO purifiers that give you sparkling clean water. And then you put out those straws with filters and tell the poor that you can drink this from the muddy water and it'll do you no harm, the filter really works, right? So we come up with cheap solutions for the poor because we can't get away from this mindset, that we think we don't actually put their honor in front of us, right? We don't see them as people who are equal to us. And that bias somehow trickles into the solutions that we put. Jugaad, right, is a sorry word that we come up with to cover up for our own incompetence around mind biases. So that is sort of what I want to talk about, and I also want to talk about as to how just being part of Rande's journey and the way and the thought process behind coming up with these solutions have influenced my own thinking and how I'm actually looking at this entire solutioning from a different perspective. So clearly putting borrowers, right? So just going back, maybe this is a question that we should start asking ourselves, right? Does being economically poor actually mean being unhappy? Are the poor always wallowing in unhappiness? Don't they have aspirations like we do? Don't they actually want to educate themselves or their children? Aren't they actually looking for bettering their lives in other ways? They're not looking to learn, right? So those questions, somehow we assume that they're not like us, and therefore we tend to put out half-baked, not well thought out solutions out there because we think this is enough. So putting the person that is going to be impacted at the final stage from our solution at the core of this entire thought process is extremely crucial. So I'm talking about three things here, right? So when we say a borrower for Rande, we need to understand that she has self-esteem, that we need to win her trust in order for her to even listen to the solutions that we're offering for her. And we need to empathize with her own personal situations and the cultural background from which she comes. And if we don't do this, then we're actually at a risk of putting out a solution that's never going to make an impact. And this specifically is a big danger when we're actually thinking of social impact solutions for the rural poor. So let me talk about a little instance in terms of what I mean by self-esteem. So many of the borrowers, even with the microfinance model, self-help groups have become a new channel, have been a constant channel for the past few years where people get access to credit. So individual borrowers do not get credit, but when they go as a group, they're offered credit, right, like a loan. And the group ensures that there is a constant peer pressure that exists, and therefore the borrowers in that group are always in a mode where they're inclined to make their repayments on time. At a theoretical level, this sounds great, right? Peer pressure sounds great, and the group models have traditionally worked well. But once you scratch the surface, what you understand is there are always personal circumstances, unforeseeable. There could be death in the family, right? There could be a loss in business, right? Something that makes a woman not make her repayments on time. Yet, the peer pressure does kick in. And these people have their self-esteem, right? Like the woman who's taken the loan has her self-esteem. She does not want her image in front of her peer group to go down. And therefore what she does is that she resorts to either selling off her assets or worse still, taking another loan in order to satisfy this loan. So what happens is they get pushed deeper and deeper into the circle of debt. And that is the danger of these models in itself. So how then do we address the aspect of self-esteem? And another data point to this is in the last 3 years, over 9,000 crores have been lent to over 3.9 million self-help groups across India, and so clearly 9,000 crores of money is now a bad debt. It's in the danger of being written off. And the problem is exactly as I described it. So people have taken loans, and in order to, being able to repay those loans, they've gone ahead and enrolled themselves into other self-help groups, and this has become a way of life. And self-help groups also have become a channel for easy money, right? Groups are given mandates that they need to meet a certain number of, they need to dole out so many loans by such and such time, and therefore onboarding people for loans has become like a sales metric. And therefore, without understanding the background context, without understanding the real reason and purpose for which a borrower is taking money, people are offering them money. If someone offered me money, naturally I would take it, right? Why would I say no to money that's coming free to me? But the side effects of that and the downstream effects of it is that people get pushed into that debt, so much so that they do not know now how to come out of it. And therefore, we need to understand that these people have respect, right? And to buy their trust before we actually go around with our solutions, which are either prescriptive or worse still, they're patronizing. So let's look at what we do differently in Rangde, and I just want to walk you through some of the scenarios that we're talking about. And we are at very, very beginning stages of our journey into creating these solutions. So even the process of thinking these solutions, I feel needs a mindset shift and to overcome the mental blocks in our mind. So clearly context-aware solutions, right? So by context-aware, naturally there is clearly user research, we need to understand the user personas, we need to understand the cultural context. All of this is like things that we do as a chore whenever we think about technology solutions. Now, if I asked any of you here to describe a user's journey, right, I'm pretty sure you're going to come up with something like, okay, he's going to come apply for a loan, he's asked for some information, submits that information, he gets money in the account, and then he starts repaying. Now if I say that 93% of borrowers for Rangde are women, and I still think not all of you understood what I meant by the previous statement, because your user was a he, right? That doesn't set into our mindset, we don't see it as different, and I'm not saying that that necessarily biases the solution that you put out, but we've come to accept the user as a male. And given the context that a significant number of your borrowers are women, I think it needs an affirmative action to actually change the mindset and start thinking about the borrower referring to her as she. And trust me, this is not easy. It is extremely hard to start referring to our users as she. I am the ardent feminist and I take sadistic pleasure in correcting people whenever they say he, and I know Kiran here gets a lot of it from me. But that is the nature of things. So unless we imbibe that context into everything that we do and say about our users, I think that is going to be very difficult for us to change our mindsets or be, realizing that these mind blocks even exist. What is more important is the fact that when we think of these women, the cultural context plays a large part, right? Many of them possibly do not own phones for themselves. They rely on household phones. The husband may have a phone. Now, when we give credit, do we want to reinforce a habit where the woman continues to be reliant on her husband to be making decisions for her? It is very easy for us to say, okay, whoever has a phone, we'll just send that information. It's okay if the husband comes and takes the loan on her behalf, right? We are actually enforcing a behavior and a cultural aspect that already exists, and that is the state of women today. In fact, many of the urban educated women, I think, pretty much face the same scenario. You tried applying for a home loan, at least I did, and it was very difficult. I was much before I got married, I was trying to apply for a house loan, and they wouldn't talk to me. I had to take my dad along for someone to even have a conversation with me, right? And by doing this, if we continue to enforce those cultural behaviors, then it's a clear problem. So when we think of the solution, we want to make sure that the power actually lies in the hands of the borrower. So what we're doing as a solution is a self-service kiosk where a woman can walk up to the kiosk in her village and actually apply for a loan. It is sort of counterintuitive if you think of more and more banks going lesser branches and mobile phone banking and so on. But given the nature of this cultural context and the fact that there isn't phone or internet penetration as much, we feel that it's okay for the women to take a little trouble, but then she knows that she has the power to come and walk up to the kiosk and ask for that loan herself without being dependent on anyone. Right? So this is another aspect to be aware of when we're designing context-aware solutions. So, experience design. Naturally, given the diversity of India, the choice of multilingual or having audio instructions or different types of interfaces, these are all things that trickle down when we talk about the specifics of how you want to design your kiosk itself. But think about, I think the real choice is not just in terms of the language that you want to pick up or the interfaces. The real choice boils down to the kind of loan that I want to take, given that is our core offering. So let me give you an instance of, let's say a woman wants to sell clay diyas for Diwali. She wants capital in order to buy raw materials, and the capital is, she needs about 2,500 rupees for her to buy the materials. She wants the money only for the 2-month period, a month before Diwali and a month after, just to tide over that period. And she's pretty confident that she'll be able to sell all the diyas, make a profit and return the money. The choice that exists for this woman to borrow credit is a standardized loan product. Someone is willing to offer her a minimum of 15,000 rupees at a 20% interest. The money would hit her account in 2 months from now, and she can repay that money 18 months after, right? So for 18 months, she has to make a repayment. Now, she does not even want 15,000 rupees. She wants this 2,500 rupees, and she's confident that she'll pay you back the money in 2 months. So isn't it critical then to leave the choice of designing the loan product to the borrower herself? Right? This is a very disruptive thing. I think a lot of people here, right, like we don't get a choice in terms of what home loans do we want to pick up. We don't get the choice to design our own loans. But it's crucial that we inculcate this mindset into when we're designing those solutions, because then the real power and the empowerment that we envisage in the social communities actually begin to take shape. So, and to quote Uncle Ben in the context of power, Uncle Ben, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So naturally, so given this power, how do we then make sure that the money that is given to the borrower is actually spent in the right way? Are they cognizant of the responsibility that it brings to them? So if any of you here are first-time entrepreneurs, in a family where most of your family has had day jobs, you would probably realize how hard it is to develop business acumen. It's extremely difficult because our dinner table conversations are not about money. They're not about markets and opportunities, right? Those things we don't talk about at all at home. And suddenly you're pushed into this world, you're bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, and you go out there and you're overwhelmed by the amount of challenges, and there isn't really anyone to guide you, right? Because it's not a natural thing, that's not what you've been bred for. And this is, I'm talking about the group which has access to a vast body of knowledge at your fingertips, literally. We have the internet, we have access to social forums, we have conferences that we attend, right? We have access, or even peer groups outside of our family who can help us tide over this. Why is it then different that a rural entrepreneur is expected that she'll take her credit and just repay it on time? What gives us that confidence that she's going to succeed the first time she takes the money? Many of the borrowers that we target at Rande are first-time borrowers. They're possibly also first-time entrepreneurs. So then how do we make sure that we're not just pushing them again into a circle of debt, because it's not just about giving the money. Which is why financial literacy has now become a core value proposition for us. It is tied in and built into the operational solution that we have planned. It's not just about putting the kiosk and saying, come take the money, and you have the power and the choice to ask for as much money as you want. It's also about telling them the importance of savings, the importance of budgeting, the importance of keeping accounts, the importance of knowing and understanding the existing government schemes that they can leverage, and also not just stopping at that and helping them onboard in terms of getting the access to a bank account, right? So until we actually have our skin in the game, I think it's going to be a really distant solution, right? Like to think that, okay, we've put a kiosk out there that works fantastically, that's the end of the story, people are just going to come, walk, and their lives are going to be impacted, would be fooling ourselves. So this has factored into the overall holistic solution that we are planning. Of course, we also need to de-risk our solution, right? It is not about just saying that, okay, someone's asking for 20,000 rupees, we'll just give them 20,000 rupees. Most businesses, even the non-profit ones, don't work that way. So in terms of de-risking, machine learning based algorithms used for credit scoring is one of the earliest applications. However, I think the core intent here has to be different. For Rangde, the intent for the machine learning algorithms or to use data to figure out the creditworthiness of a borrower is not with an intent to reject the loan. Our intent is defined that we will always approve a loan, but we will tell you what is the right amount you're approved for. If you are starting the same business that 50 others in your village have started, then you know what, maybe your chance of success is so great. So we'll give you a lesser amount, we will not reject it. So why don't you just go and try? It's a smaller amount to play with. Try if it works and then come back. We will also be there to support and monitor you. And then we'll see. If you succeed, then you can come back and apply for a loan. So that is sort of how we see. And on the other side of the spectrum, so I spoke about the peer pressure and the repayment related challenges. It is possible that even in the individual borrowing model, naturally there are going to be people who, due to unforeseeable personal circumstances, are not going to be able to pay a loan, right? There could be natural calamities, right? Now, do I then put a willful defaulter and a person forced by circumstance on the same level? Should our algorithms treat them both the same and give them the same punishment in terms of lowering their credit score? That is something that we do not want to do, and therefore we're talking about something called an empathy score. We will go and actually find out why was there a default or why was there a delay, right? What is the reason behind it? Is there some other intervention that is needed? And make sure that is discounted. The empathy score ensures that people are not punished for things that have happened that are outside of their control. I think this is extremely crucial for us to understand that even though we're looking at data-driven approaches to take the, if a person were to review a loan application, there is always the personal bias and anecdotal evidence that plays in our head. So we're saying, okay, let's use data to come up with these assessments. But if we look at it as a purely mathematical exercise and take the human aspect out of it, then I think we're setting ourselves up for a failure. So this is the kind of a very different perspective where we're seeing that it's not just technology, but it is the entire ecosystem that we need to think about in terms of making the right solutions for the rural market. And we know that this is going to be a long road ahead. It's not an easy road at all. And we know that this requires years of patience, constant monitoring, and a sustained effort to iterate and improvise on the offerings that we have. And also, rise up to the changing scenarios, right? So if as people get more phone penetration, maybe the kiosk won't be needed. As women get more empowered to manage their own finances, then maybe we can just deal with them directly through their phones and not having to go through the household phones or through the kiosks. So we're hoping that our journey will be successful, and we're also hoping that many of you here would support us with your goodwill. So thank you so much for listening to me patiently. Take questions.
Any questions?
A lot of us here probably are from a village background. Personally, I have come from a village near Mangalam. So how can, so I am in IT now. So now, how can we support you, or what are the opportunities we have to work with?
Okay, that's a great question. So honestly, Rangde, our team has worked on the field for 8 years. Right? So we naturally conduct audits where we go and meet the borrowers. We try and see how our partner organizations work. And most of these inputs that I say from a technology standpoint that we've got is actually from people on the ground. Right? So some of the ways that you can help, right, is where we're trying to gather data purely in terms of the last mile challenges. Right? So even in terms of testing our solutions, user research is something that we are trying to get. Like if we have designed our interfaces, we do want to see how this works, and are people finding it intuitive? How do they accept a kiosk-based solution and so on? So if you can introduce us to any of those channels, then that would be great. So I will catch up with you after, I guess.
Understanding the structure of a loan, structuring it ourselves is slightly complex, interest rate and your payment to it. Doing all that, and you want to customize it at the point of a kiosk, and how do you go about problem like such a complex thing, go with multiple stand options?
Yeah. So I think, so we're starting on it in an iterative fashion. So at this point, what we want to do is give the loan amount and when the loan needs to hit their account as the flexible option. And we go with our existing standard loan options to begin with, right? But then we also want to create multiple flavors of these loan products, right? And possibly not just stop at the point where Ramte becomes the sole provider of those loan products. Maybe we onboard other partners who can give them better loans as well, right? So it is not just in terms of, so for instance, Ramte might say that, okay, you want 2,500, you want the money next week, that's great. Now here are two of your options. You can pay it within the next 3 months at 10% interest, or you can pay this over the next 6 months at a different interest rate, or you can choose a slightly longer option at a different rate. So you get that choice and you get to pick one of them. That is sort of how we're envisioning it. And I know that this is too early for us to know how this will be adopted, but yeah, that is the line of thought that we have. And if this works out, and this is also part of how educated you are about the financial aspect of it, right? Like for me, if you ask me to define what is the best loan product that you would like to define, even I would find it harder, right? So, and that is why I'm saying the financial literacy and the entire on-the-field assistance that we need to give to the borrowers becomes crucial. So we start off with baby steps, but our ultimate goal is a place where we'll be able to let the borrowers completely choose what they want at their own terms.
One last question, folks.
Hi, I'm Anurup. My question is how do social startups and social companies so how do they sustain themselves and I'm coming from a very capitalist point of view. So how do you sustain? You need to have some profit. So how do you maintain that you don't become capitalistic and then you still so that is the question.
Okay. So this is an answer that I was struggling myself before I joined Runway. It's because profit is a very tangible thing that you can work towards, right? It gives you a goal. The numbers actually give you a goal. Whereas if you look at what makes it tangible for us is the actual number of lives impacted by the loans that we've given. So the impact is what we tend to measure. In terms of sustenance, so Rangde for the past 8 years has been moving closer and closer towards a sustainable model. Where, so in fact Rangde, right, like when we give the loans, the borrowers actually return the loans back to us. Rangde takes a small percentage as interest. The social investors who have put in their money also takes a small 2% interest is given back. So it is that interest which is meant to sustain our operations. We of course are backed by Tata Trust and we have our funding, which is how we are able to run today. But in the longer term, even with the scaling approach, the idea is for us to make sure that we disburse as much loans and reduce our operational costs, and therefore we should be able to sustain that level. Yeah. So while the motive is not profit, and if there is profit, it just gets channeled back into the business, but that's the thing.